The Seventh Tower by Garth Nix. Book 1, The Fall. Chapter 18. "What?" screamed Milla. "How could you do this to me?" "A shield maiden faces her faults," recited the crone, still smiling. "Besides, this is the greatest quest I have ever given, to go to the Mountain of Light, to bring back a sunstone." "So you knew where the castle was all along?" interrupted Tal. "You knew I was telling the truth?" "Yes," said the crone. "The crones know of it, for your castle is the only permanently bright thing in the sky, there atop its mountain. But it is forbidden to us, for we know it houses great evil, where shadows rule." "That's not true!" exclaimed Tal. "Shadow spirits serve us. The chosen rule them. They're servants, like my shadow guard you keep locked up there. That's all."
"That is no more than a Selski sprat is to a Merwin,"
said the crone. She wasn't smiling now.
"We know of what these shadows are, and how our ancestors fought them, and raised the darkness that protects us."
"Your ancestors?" said Tal. "They had nothing to do with the veil. The chosen made it, because the sun is too strong." "Don't speak to the crone like that," said Milla, and she raised her fist.
"Enough," said the crone. "We must bind you to the quest. Tal, give me your arm."
Slowly Tal put out his arm. The crone took it and slid the sleeve of his fur coat back to show his bare wrist. Tal waited, thinking she was going to read the future in it or say something like the mother crone had said. He was totally unprepared when she suddenly produced a large tusk and sliced it across his skin. "Ah!" he shouted, pulling his hand back. Blood was already welling out. Tal saw that the crone had actually cut him 3 times, very swiftly, making a strange, triangular pattern in his skin. "Weakling," commented Milla, and she held out her wrist. It was already scarred in the triangular pattern. The crone cut near the old scars, and Milla watched the blood appear without flinching.
"Clench your fist to keep the blood coming," instructed the crone, "and follow me."
"Keep it flowing?" asked Tal. These ice curls were even madder than he thought. But he did clench his fist, watching the beads of blood come out. The crone hadn't cut deep at all. She must have had lots of practice. Tal shuddered, thinking what might have happened if she wasn't so good at it. They went back onto the deck. The sunstone on the mast was still shining brightly, which Tal was glad to see. But it was snowing again, heavily, and visibility was poor. He kept his head tucked in as the crone led him to the mast. There she took his wrist and wiped the blood against the mast, and then the deck. From the different color of the bone there, Tal guessed this ceremony had been done many times before. Milla did the same.
"Repeat these words after me," said the crone,
once more looking into Tal's eyes with her strange, luminous gaze. He nodded, licked his lips, and ate a snowflake by accident.
"I give my blood to the bone of the ship," said the crone.
"I give my blood to the bone of the ship," repeated Tal and Milla. The crone took his wrist and wiped it on the mast and the deck again. Milla followed.
"I give my blood to the clan of my blood."
"I give my blood to the clan of my blood," repeated Tal. The crone took his wrist and forced it against Milla's upturned wrist, so their blood mingled. Milla looked away.
"I give my blood to the wind, blood to the ice,"
said the crone, taking Tal's hand and shaking it so a drop of blood was taken by the wind and carried overboard. Milla shook hers at the same time, and by some freak of the wind, the drops of blood met. But only the crone's eyes were sharp enough to see that happen.
"By bone of the ship and blood of the clan, I will gain a sunstone for the clan of the Far Raiders. May wind destroy me, and ice freeze me, if I fail," said the crone.
Both Tal and Milla repeated the words, with the crone holding their wrists.
"Now you are bound together in this quest,"
the crone said with satisfaction.
"And Tal, you are at least a little bit an ice carl."
Milla muttered something that was lost in the wind. Tal looked at her, and didn't see any sudden friendliness. They might be bound together for a quest, but he still didn't trust her, and she obviously hated him.
"Milla, show Tal where he can sleep, and then prepare for your journey. The castle lies beyond the Selski migration, and there is a gap ahead. You will have to cross it quickly."
By sleigh? Asked Milla stiffly. Surely the boy cannot skate or ski. You may have a sleigh and 6 reska, said the crone. Dornto will ready them for you. Hold on, said Tal. You mean it's just the 2 of us who are going? I thought the ship— No, said the crone. We follow the Selski, who only know one path. That is our life, and we cannot break it except at direst need. Milla will safeguard you. She is an expert hunter, one of the best on the ice. Your greatest danger will be time, for the Selski teem in uncountable numbers. We call it the living sea, and the gaps in their migration path are narrow, but I am sure you will get across. She turned away before Tal could ask another question, leaving him standing there next to Milla. She was looking at her wrist. Tal looked at his, and saw that the blood had already dried. The pattern remained. Follow me, said Milla, and she crossed the snow-slippery deck and went back through the hatch. Tal followed more clumsily. The crone had said to sleep, but he didn't know how he was going to do that. At the hatch, he looked back up at the sunstone, half shrouded in the flurries of snow. He gripped his own sunstone and thought about exactly how much trouble he was in. He was incredibly far away from the castle. In just 2 months, he had to have a new primary sunstone, or else he could never be a proper chosen. His whole future, the whole rest of his life, lost. His mother— he choked a little as he thought of her lying ill on her bed— needed that sunstone. So did Gref and Kusi. His father, if he was still alive, would be counting on him to look after everyone else. He had just sworn some sort of oath that he didn't mean to keep, but couldn't help taking seriously. He'd mingled his blood with— he didn't know what any more, because they weren't underfolk, but a crazy girl with a natural shadow who wanted to kill him and was only stopped by tradition. When he woke up in the morning, he would have to leave even the small comforts of the ship and head out across the ice with the crazy girl, to cross a living sea of animals. It was all too much. Tal gulped and fought back the tears that were forming in his eyes. It's just the wind, he told himself. But he knew that wasn't true. Then he saw the crone again. She was standing near the mast. She looked at him and threw something. Tal ducked, but whatever it was hit the deck and then rolled toward him. Something dark, which he instinctively reached for. His shadow guard flowed past his feet, taking on his form, just like a natural shadow, and spread down the steps behind him. Tal had to look over his shoulder to see it as he sighed with relief. I have spoken to it, said the crone, her voice carrying across the deck. No one should be without their shadow, but as long as you travel with ice carls, it must only be a shadow. There is no place for uncertainty about such things on the ice. Tal smiled and went below. His shadow preceded him, looking no different from any ice carls. Tal had no idea if the crone had taken away its power to change shape and make itself more solid. He didn't care. He was too tired to think about it now. He was just glad to have it back. I will wake you at the turn of the glow jellies, said Milla, as she showed him a pile of furs between 2 snoring boys about his own age. She hesitated, then said in quite a matter-of-fact tone, I still wish to kill you, but I see that I cannot. Not now we are bound to the quest. I will protect you on the ice, and we will reach your castle and gain the sunstone. 2 sunstones, Tal thought tiredly. He burrowed down in his furs. Everything had begun because he just wanted 1 sunstone. What was going to happen now that he needed 2? Beside him, his shadow guard suddenly turned into a tiny version of Sharakor, the shadow dragon. Milla saw it flicker out of the corner of her eye and whirled around. But by then it had become a normal shadow again, and Tal was sound asleep.